What is cyber war and what can cyber warfare do? Um, Cyber warfare is the use or targeting in a battle space context of computers, online control systems, and networks. It involves both offensive and defensive operations pertaining to the threat of cyber attacks and sabotage. There has been controversy over whether such operations can be called war. Um, government has Governments have recently been investing in cyber warfare. Um, Governments are aware that modern societies are so reliant on computer systems to run everything from financial services to transport networks that using hackers armed with viruses or other tools to shut down those systems could be just as effective and damaging as traditional military campaigns using troops armed with guns and missiles. Um, Unlike traditional military attacks, and cyber attack can be launched instantly from any distance with little obvious evidence of any buildup. Unlike a traditional military operation, um, such as attacks would be extremely hard to trace back with any certainty to its perpetrators, making retaliation harder. Um, However, governments also see the opportunity that cyber warfare capabilities bring with offering a new way to exert influences on rival states without having to put any soldiers at risk. The fear of being vulnerable to the cyber weapons of the rivals, plus a desire to harness these tools to bolster their own standing in the world, is leading many countries into a cyber arms race. Um, Whether an attack should be considered as an act of cyber warfare depends on a number of factors. These include the identity of the attacker, what they are doing, how they are doing it, and how much damage they inflict. Like other forms of warfare, cyber warfare is, in its purest sense, is usually defined as a conflict between states and not individuals. Um, to qualify the attacks really should be the significant scale and sobriety. Uh, why and how cyber warfare matters is because how these factors combine will help determine what kind of response a country can make to a cyber attack. Uh, there is one key form or definition of cyber warfare, which is a digital attack that is so serious it can be seen as the equivalent of a physical attack. To reach this threshold, an attack on computer systems will have to lead to the significant destruction or disruption or even loss of life. This is the significant threshold because under international law, countries are allowed to use force to defend themselves against an armed attack. It then follows that if a country were hit by a cyber attack of significant scale, the government is within its rights to strike back using the force of their standard military arsenal to respond to hacking with missile strikes, perhaps. Um, so far, this has never happened. Indeed, it is not entirely clear if any attack has ever reached that threshold. Even if such an attack occurred, it wouldn't be assumed that the victim would necessarily strike back in such a way. But international law will not stand in the way of such a response in just in case that does happen.